India, along with over 50 countries, have been pressing America to take a key decision on waiving of intellectual property sharing, especially on vaccine cooperation. Now, what is the TRIPS agreement? It's a WTO agreement on trade-related aspects of intellectual property rights. Now, we'll tell you what has happened so far. Now, who are the members of this agreement? 164 countries, including India, who are members of the WTO. Also members. Why is this IP waiver, which the US has decided to suspend, beneficial now in the fight against the pandemic? Now, it relaxes patent rights for global production of COVID-19 vaccines. Now, how will countries benefit? Global production will allow poorer countries to be vaccinated. Poor countries, developing countries, countries that need more vaccinations. Now, who will benefit from this waiver? Everyone, including those who have been vaccinated. How? Let's tell you more about it. Is there a global impact of this IP waiver by America? Vaccinating everyone will, of course, end the pandemic sooner, and more countries have been pressing America to let go of this particular clause. Now, the pandemic, is there a global impact? Yes, because the pandemic can only end when the virus transmission and mutations end. And to that effect, when India and the other 50 countries pressed America, they've been forced to take a decision. Now, what are the arguments against the IP waiver? Now, some of the arguments made by America and those who are supporting America is that there were no incentives for companies to keep innovating, and they also argued about how companies will hesitate to invest in COVID-related research, which of course has been the other argument. But is the waiver fair to private companies or the public? Governments have invested public money in private companies for COVID research. So we will tell you the pros and cons and why this will help India. Now, sharing technology will ensure that cheaper generic vaccines are made available for the public, and India has been pressing America to ensure that there is some waiver on this front, and more than 200 ingredients are needed to produce the vaccines. India has been asking America to also allow us get access to some of the raw materials. Now, more than and more importantly, intellectual property may not be the only bottleneck as far as as far as the production of this vaccine is concerned, but the waiver is a first step in global cooperation, because it will now mean that countries will get access to the technology, and then some countries like India already have access to the raw material. So you have access to the technology in making the vaccine, and then the raw material, and of course we have our own production capabilities. Now, are there long-term benefits of the waiver? Yes, waivers allow countries around the world to be ready for the next pandemic, ready for also the next wave of the pandemic. Now, collaborated research could also speed up vaccines for all diseases and not just India alone. So now, of course, it's the COVID pandemic, but there could be a larger global cooperation as far as the fight for more vaccines are concerned. Now, some of the long-term benefits include private companies will need to invest less, as technology will be open to all and will be available to all. Now, some other long benefits could also be that vaccines for the next pandemic could be more equitable. So it won't just be like what happened now recently, when America had access to millions and millions of doses and also the technology. And it takes time for other countries to first get access to the technology or the raw materials, and finally the vaccines themselves. Now, has such waiver been proposed before? The TRIPS waiver was called for the polio vaccines, and it has happened now in the cases in cases of the COVID pandemic. Now, the TRIPS waiver was called also for the HIV and AIDS drugs. So it has happened before, while the world has battled diseases and wanted such vaccines and also technologies to be made available to developing countries, to developed countries, and also to the poorer countries. So this particular move by America will help countries across the world, and India also wanted it, because we will get access to the technology to many such vaccines.